Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Watch Rolling Podcast. The Watch Rolling Podcast is a veteran-owned podcast and focuses on horology while sharing valuable resources with the watch enthusiast community. My name is Jason. I'm your host. If you're new to the pod, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. Episode 98. Should you join a watch enthusiast group? I'm going to give you 3 reasons why, and I think reason number 3 is probably the most important one for you and your wallet. Let's get into it. So the first thing I want to talk about, watches are a niche interest. So this is something we all know this, right? We don't have anyone else to talk to watches about. Most of the time we talk to our family about watches. On a rare occasion where my wife's kind of into watches, I have someone I could talk to about it. But for the most part, we're not really talking to anybody that's super into watches like we are. They don't understand why we care about them so much, whether it's movements, finishing, or the history of watches, right? And it's so niche that sometimes people don't really care about the history. They care about the brand, or sometimes they don't care about the brand. They care about the history, et cetera, et cetera. It's hard to get people to understand why watch enthusiast groups matter, right? And I think it's important for us to be able to verbalize that, especially to each other, but to the people we care about. They matter because they provide community, hands-on experience, and access, making the hobby much more enjoyable. So let's get into reason number 1, community. I think this humanizes the hobby. I think you're allowed to build connections inside of the space, right? Inside of whatever group you're going to join. The whole hobby can feel kind of solitary if you're just doing it by yourself. If you're only online, I'm not even going to mention forums. I mean, forums can be I've been in some forums and I just back out of them because sometimes it gets a little spicy in there. And you have less of that, I think, when you're face to face with people and you more naturally want to just build connections through the people. Are you going to like everybody in a group you join? Probably not. But that's like anywhere in life. You're not going to like everybody that you're around. But I think that the ability to build connections and you start to humanize the hobby and all of us get together, we talk about our watches, what we enjoy. You really see a side of people. You just see something that's awesome. And you get to learn from them, right? That's another thing. You learn from others. You can gain insights. You can hear their collecting philosophies. And you can discover new perspectives on horology. And I think that's the coolest thing because I've met people that, Patrick, Pocket Watch Time, shout out, check out his channel, Pocket Watch Time on YouTube. Patrick's like really into different metals for his stuff and pocket watches, obviously. Learned about metals from him at a time in my life. And it's just interesting, right? And you can see that for people's collections and how they collect and all that stuff. I think it's pretty cool. The second thing, tangible experience, hands-on with watches. I think this is the best way, hands down, to discover watches. I mean, handling watches in person is an absolute game changer. You get to see proportions, finishing. You get to see how it feels like it's on the wrist. Speaking of wrist, let's do a wrist check. I'm wearing my Vertex M100 AWWC on the bracelet. So comfortable. But you get to do that in person. You get to do wrist rolls, whatever you want. You can take them at the event, just post them after the event, right? For everyone's safety. All that tangible experience. I mean, you go to a meetup, even if there's 5 people and everyone brings 5 watches, 25 watches. And usually there's just a variety of watches, so many different cool things you could try on, stuff you probably never even heard of, stuff you might have think that you never even would ever get to put on. It's all there. And I think that's, like I said, the best way to discover watches. And I think it's bringing the hobby to you. Do you go to the meetup? Yes. But are you bringing the hobby to you? Yeah, definitely you are, right? And you're bringing it to you in person or in the metal, as my buddy Miguel would say on SoCal Watch Reviews. Shout out, Miguel. But, while you might have to travel for these meetups, the variety of watches makes it worth it. I mean, I've been to meetups where it's like the craziest stuff. I mean, people that are into collecting Seiko or Timex or Casio or, Rolex or AP. I mean, there's all different kinds, or a little bit of everything. Dive watches, old Russian, Soviet watches, you name it. You can run the gamut there. And I think it's awesome. I mean, all you do is invest a little bit of time, a little bit of gas money, and believe me, it's almost like Field of Dreams. The watches will come. Now, the third most important reason I think a watch enthusiast should consider joining a watch enthusiast group is access. And I think that this is the most important thing to think about. It's the one way, I think the easiest way to get access to watches that you don't have to spend money on. A lot of times, a lot of us, especially if you're solitary, you're by yourself, you have to buy a watch. But the way I look at it is, it's kind of like going to a botanical garden. If I want to see cool flowers and trees, could I if I just walk down the street? Yeah. But what's a chance of seeing like a Joshua tree here in Virginia Beach? I mean, slim to none. But if I went to a botanical garden, there's a ton of different stuff there, and I could see stuff that may not naturally be there locally. And I feel that's the way with watch meetups, and you get access to these watches. But there's some rules at watch meetups, like you don't want to wind someone's watch without asking them first or operate the chronograph. But most of the time, people don't care if you pick them up. I usually ask anyways, hey, do you mind if I pick it up? And they say, yeah, no problem. And, like turning the bezel, I'll ask or whatever. Do you mind if I try it on, take a picture? They're like, no, cool. It is just awesome. Everything is there for you and you have access to it, and it doesn't cost you any money other than the gas it takes you to get from point A to point B. And I think that's the one thing that we as watch enthusiasts, it's going to sound funny, but we as watch enthusiasts don't have that watch influencers or quote unquote media get, and that's access to the watches. So it's one way to kind of get on this even playing field, right? Because now if you see something on a video or something and it sounds too good to be true, you're like, yeah, I mean, I've handled a couple of those. It's not as great as a person saying, or it's not as bad as the person saying. If someone's like a super drama content creator and stuff, I think that's one thing to consider. And then how does this access support the first 2 points? Well, more access means a deeper knowledge of the community and a deeper knowledge of the timepieces. I think that's the most important thing. Like I've heard people say all kinds of stuff, oh, watches, that brand's not that nice and blah, 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 blah. And the one thing I used to hear that about was like, I've heard people say about Vacheron Constantine until I held like my first overseas. And I was like, oof, is everything it's cracked up to be, right? Because of the thinness of the overall build and the finishing and, the sweep of the movement and the finishing on the dial and the weight and balance and the comfort of it. It was everything I thought it would be and more. And it made sense to an extent why it is the price point that it is. And I would have never had that deeper understanding of knowledge if I hadn't gone to a meetup or I hadn't gone to a group event or a watch enthusiast group. And I'm just maximizing and multiplying my hands-on experience. So I get a better, deeper understanding of the community and what's out there as far as enthusiasts, because I think the enthusiasts are just as diverse and interesting as the watches. And then I get more hands-on time and tangible experience. And so to wrap that up before I go into examples of different watch groups, you're going to give yourself community and humanize the hobby. I think that's very important. Build connections, learn from others. You're getting tangible experience. I think it's the best way to discover watches. You're going to hear it straight from the horse's mouth. You're going to see if someone's super excited if they're not about it. And then you can bring the hobby to you, and then access, which I think is the third most important thing. It's going to be the one thing that we all crave. We want those watches in our hands, and going to a watch enthusiast meet will put those watches in your hands, and it won't cost you anything really to do it. And then it just basically gives you a deeper knowledge of the community and more hands-on time with people. So what are some examples of watch groups? Now, those of you know, full disclosure, those of you that know me know that I'm a co-founder of Red Bar Virginia Beach. And that's a free worldwide chapter. And I've heard people talk about Red Bar. And my experience has been nothing but great. My buddy Chris and I, who co-founded it, we were originally, Chris before me, but members of Red Bar Raleigh. We went down there for a meetup. It was awesome. Everyone was great. Such a diverse amount of watches. But it was such a fun, wonderful time. One time I actually went by myself because Chris couldn't go. It was just awesome. Just great time. And that experience basically got me and Chris talking about the distance gap between where the Red Bar chapters were. So we put together a plan and we approached HQ, and they greenlit us for the Red Bar Virginia Beach. And since then, it's been great. We actually have a meeting in a little while, virtual meeting, and I can't wait for it. But, Red Bar's free, worldwide chapters. All you got to do is reach out to them on Instagram or via email or contact one of us, and we can put you in touch. We've done it already a couple of times with people for their regional chapters and made it fun, made it access and available to them so they can join. There's also one out of Atlanta called the Watch Society. They were formerly the Atlanta Watch Society. There's stuff like up in DMV, which is Delaware, Maryland, Virginia. I'd say that's more up like towards the DC area, the DMV Watch Club. And those are just 3 examples. There are tons of other ones. I mean, I would just say do a Google search. Watch Crunch would be a good place. I don't go in there as much as I should, but Watch Crunch is a web app and a website, an app you can use to talk to other enthusiasts. I'm already doing Instagram and stuff. It's just a lot of time. I really don't have much time to devote to anything else social media wise for watches other than Instagram on top of the podcast, on top of the Red Bar stuff. You know how it is. You got to pick and choose. There are some groups that charge fees. There are some groups that do giveaways and events, but many like Red Bar are free. They just want you to sign up and participate. And I'll add this to in that little section. The group is going to give back to you what you put into it. If you come in and you're negative, if you come in and you're putting people's watches down, if you're coming in and you're being standoffish, you're going to get that energy back. I try to come into these things like optimistic and hopeful and happy for what I'm going to see, and appreciative for the fact that people are sharing their watches and their hobby with me. Most importantly, they're sharing their enthusiasm with you, because when they share their enthusiasm for a piece, they are giving a piece of themselves to you. It's a little bit of insight. You can tell by my watches what I'm kind of into, et cetera, et cetera. And I could do it with other people, and I think it's fun. So let's wrap this up, because this one's not going to be super long because I thought it was pretty straight and to the point. But watch groups provide community, hands-on experience, and most importantly, access. Don't forget that part about access. You want watches, you want to handle them, you want to be around them. Go in meetups, learn about what you like, learn about what you don't like, and you can make good decisions from there. The call to action is find a group near you. The benefits far outweigh the cost. You deserve to be in a group. You deserve to be around other watch enthusiasts and be able to share the love of your hobby. And who knows what could happen? You might meet some cool people. You might meet a dealer. You might be someone that works in a brand. Who knows what? And the final message, collecting is fun, but sharing the passion makes it even better. And remember, at watchrolling.com, you make the watch. The watch doesn't make you.